Hello, and welcome to another episode of Improperly Packaged, a show where we unbox topics related to movies, TV, games, whatever. I am Jordan. With me is Luke. How are you doing, Luke?
Welcome everyone. We are here. Doing
Welcome to the Freak Show. I don't know.
DC Talk?
I think that's a DC Talk album. I'm pretty sure. Welcome to the Freak Show. I don't know.
I don't think the kids these days know DC Talk, but they should.
No.
These guys rock the block.
They really did. They really broke the mold for Christian music in a big way. I mean, it was all so samey then. Like kids weren't allowed to listen to Christian. This is like the 90s, so kids weren't allowed to listen to Christian rock, Christian rap, and then here comes DC Talk. That's a little bit of both. And honestly, they were pretty original.
I don't even think they're like thought of though as like Christian music.
True.
Like in like the history books.
In the
I mean, they are for sure, but like they were something special.
I agree. I mean, they shouldn't be just remembered as that too, because I think they did have something original, where Christian music historically, and I think even now, seem to be like even what their current stuff is like maybe 10 to 15 years behind what is actually going on.
Yeah,
but
they remind me of like Christian version of like Nirvana or something. Like their songs were special, like not all their albums, but like especially Jesus Freak, it was like just these were just like ordained songs. Like
that was killer.
You can't
stuff.
just go and like write that stuff. It just was like that was so good. Such a good mashup of artists. Like they just gelled well together in their sound. Like it was great.
They were doing like that rock and rap fusion like way before Linkin Park came along. I mean, it wasn't completely new. Yeah, Toby Mac wasn't completely new, but it wasn't done often. They lean into it. So yeah, cool stuff.
No, and I would say it was almost wasn't done to their level. Again, I'm trying to remember. There was another one. Bleach, was it?
Yeah,
I feel like they were kind of like that.
Bit, yeah,
a
little bit.
There wasn't a lot of them though. I mean, POD. I guess
POD, Payable on Death.
POD would be the like they were a little bit after DC Talk.
Yeah, like that was
News
the time,
Boys, but they weren't like as rappy. There weren't that many that like leaned into the rap as much as DC Talk did.
No, like there was this weird blend that like a lot of bands had back in that time, where it was like Limp Bizkit and POD and stuff like Saliva. They always had that yo, come on, that sort of thing. Which wasn't quite rap. I don't know what it was.
Are we not going to mention the epitome of that?
What?
Limp Bizkit.
Limp Bizkit, yeah. Limp Bizkit.
That's the epitome of that.
That exactly is the epitome of it. You're right.
Saliva was almost like, yeah, we could do that, but like more hard than Limp Bizkit did. Limp Bizkit was a little more rappy. Saliva was definitely more rocky.
I can't recall a song from Saliva. Even though I said Saliva, I'm trying to think of the song that's Saliva, but
weren't they on that Vin Diesel movie, that Man Apart? Wasn't
that
was
like
their
Puddle
song?
of Mud?
Puddle of Mud. They sound very similar.
Yeah. I mean, it's that time. What have you been up to, man? Have you done anything interesting this week?
I am building a wall. It's the first time I've ever tried to do masonry work.
How's that coming along?
Form a wall in my yard. There's like we've kind of had an issue with the water where it flows down, so we're like putting up a wall and we're going to put some grass in, try to make it all look good, but I'm hoping the wall is going to help with the water. It's a lot of work, so I hope it helps.
Dang. Sounds fancy. You guys are doing great stuff at that house from the glimpses that I've had. It's exciting.
It's a lot of work.
I bet.
I'm tired. It's like I want to take a break and not do projects, but at the same time, when I'm sitting there looking at things around me, it's like I don't want to just sit here and not get stuff done. But then I get stuff done and I get stressed out and I get exhausted. It's this vicious cycle of like stopping stuff so I can relax and then being like, no, I need to do something. And then no, I need to stop. I'm exhausted. Sure, everyone goes through that.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully the end is in sort of sight as far as that is concerned, at least. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Anywho, let's get into this.
Let's get into it.
Let's calm your nerves by talking about WandaVision. I don't know if that's gonna calm your nerves, I'm gonna be honest. But anyways, watching / playing. I think Last week it was you. I think, I don't know. I can't remember. Usually I go back and listen to it and recall, but whatever.
I think it was me. Yeah.
All right. So let's do some listening to what we've been listening to. We already talked about DC Talk. Let's I'm going to bring it back with something else. I don't know what day you're going to be listening to this podcast, but today is March 11th, also known as 3/11 Day. So, I was like, you know what?
Wow.
I'll bite. And so I started listening to some 3/11 today.
Wow.
They're pretty good. Honestly, 3/11.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me. Honestly, 3/11 isn't so much my jam. I'm not the biggest fan of reggae, even though they're not reggae. They're kind of a reggae rock fusion kind of deal. And so the reggae aspects of 3/11,
they're like kind of like OAR. How like I don't really like reggae that much, but I love OAR.
Yeah, you're right. They're very similar to that, and but I appreciate how good they are because I listened to them like today, and I was like, yeah, they're good. Like I listened to like an album while I was working. I was like, this is good stuff. Maybe it's 3/11 Day is the only day of the year I'll listen to them, but they're quite good. Just a shout out to 3/11. What have you been listening to, man?
I've been listening to this band. I guess it's called The Wildlife. It's WLDLFE, where they like eliminate the like whatever. What are they? Oh my gosh, my mind's so blank. I'm so tired right now. What's AEIOU? What is
vowels?
Vowels.
It's all right to forget what vowels are. It's fine.
I'm tired. Yeah, The Wildlife. Anyways, they have the song 2020/Waking Up is Hard to Do, and it was in my Discover Weekly.
Let me see.
Jamming out to it. Very mellow indie stuff.
Wildlife.
I try to like mix it up because I feel like you and I, that's like our go-to mellow indie stuff.
Definitely.
But
here we are.
Yeah. Here's another one.
Throw another one on the pile. Pretty recent.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. I just kind of played them for a little while, just like let it like cycle through. They're like, this is The Wildlife, and
is that usually your go-to on Spotify when you're like trying to get into a new band, like the This Is playlist or This Is album or however they do that?
Let me see. There's a Discover Weekly I really like. Every week I try to look through my Discover Weekly and my release radar. And then sometimes I'll look through like the New Music Friday because that's like stuff not tailored to me. It's just like these are like the top things that people listen to. So I always hit the like ones that are specific to me, and most of the time I'd say it's like 60% stuff I like.
Yeah.
But it's like, we'll listen to like a baby thing for indie, and it's like I don't want to listen to other stuff about that. Like if I want to find baby stuff, I'll just search for that. But it'll start being like, oh, you like this lullaby. You probably like, it's like, oh my God.
Can we separate this and just
have
me say that this is just for now and not for
Spotify? This is a singular event.
No need to
bleed into what you think I am.
Make assumptions. Sometimes Spotify is really bad at that. And it's like it says like all-time favorites. I'm like, I listened to this song once. Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah, it can be
and
weird.
I like to like listen to random stuff too. So it's like I'll be all over the place with things I'll listen to. And that doesn't mean I like all that stuff. It's just like, hey, maybe I want to listen to a song from the 30s. It just, it's just, hey.
No, this is what you're about now. This is your identity now. 30s music.
Yeah. That's what it makes me feel like.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
that's it.
Let's see. So this week, you gave me some homework that I actually complied with to watch the Netflix.
Watch the movie?
What?
Nice.
Yeah.
You watched the movie?
I watched the movie. I watched I keep forgetting the title. Like I really care.
I care a lot.
Thank you. I watched this laying in bed.
My parents actually watched it too.
No way. Wow.
Dad and I were talking about it.
How about that? So yeah.
I just before you get into it, I was just thinking about that. I had signed my dad up for the Starlink, and we got the beta invite.
What?
Probably like 2 weeks ago. My dad is signed up. We put like the initial $100 down. So we're just waiting now to get Starlink satellite for my parents.
What? So you'll be getting your internet
like
from
the
space?
rural internet. Well, not I won't, but
yeah.
Hopefully they will.
That's awesome.
I've been looking through what other people are getting. Like they're getting consistently 100 megabytes down.
That's a big deal.
Amazing for out in the country.
Big deal. I mean,
honestly,
for that house.
100 is like, it's pretty much enough for anything you need to do.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
We never use our 200 or 300, whatever, you and I have.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
That's pretty amazing. Like, that's transformative. They're going from like 3 to like 5, like really slow.
Out there where your folks live, it's awful. There's no options.
And the delay is like 800 milliseconds, and people are saying the delay is like sub 30, which is faster than what I get here on cable. That's nuts.
That's awesome, man.
So, anyways, I'll update you more as if I get more news or whatever.
Please do. That's very cool.
So that's how they're able to watch Netflix, because they upped their internet. They're kind of like leaning into internet a little bit more.
Yeah.
So they're trying to they kind of got envy of like you and I and like me talking about what all we're watching, and Amazon Prime and Netflix and HBO Max and like all this stuff we can stream. My dad's like, you have so many movies. I have nothing. I just have to watch the same reruns on cable. So they up their data cap. They're paying a little bit more on the satellite they're on now, but they look forward to Starlink, which has no data caps.
That's
crazy.
That's amazing.
I assume they will put data caps in later, because that's what companies do. But for now, no data caps. So.
Hopefully they can cut their cable after that or whatever. That's great.
Yeah, probably. What'd you think?
All right, so I watched it I started it. I've been every now and then I watch a movie in bed. I'll be in bed, Amber's going to sleep, and I'll be like, all right, I'm going to put this on. And I had the intention of I'm going to start this movie and I'll finish it later. I watched the whole thing. I was up late watching it. It hooked me in. It's a very entertaining movie. It's very good in that way to where it's like, I want to finish this.
It makes you want to keep watching. Yeah,
exactly. It's very engaging. It's very good.
What is going to happen?
Exactly. What is going to happen? Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's really good. It's not for everyone, I don't think. I think,
the ending is definitely not for everyone.
Yeah, the ending is kind of weird. I mean, the thing about the movie, and I think it was a problem for me a little bit all the way through, the main character is a little too despicable, I think, for me to even root for at all. Yeah, and
both main parties.
Yeah, there's no one to...
Everyone's terrible. I want everyone to die.
Exactly. There's the thing is, it's as you said, it's kind of
it's hard to not get into this without spoiling everything.
I know. I'll try to be a little bit vague. It's kind of like a bad guy versus bad guy kind of story. But in this case, the main character, Rosamund Pike's character, is uniquely evil, in a way that we don't see very often. Where
I remember Bethany was watching it right at the beginning. She's like, this is scary.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
I'm like, yeah. I won't justify it. You're exactly right. This is awful. Especially for a lady. Yeah. I don't know. That may be a little sexist. I don't know why, but it's I feel worse because she specifically seems to pick more on ladies. And it's I don't know. It's you can't physically defend yourself as much as a man, I guess. And it's it just makes me more angry to pick on ladies.
When you see it happen to an old woman, it's you get defensive as an audience member, and you're like, oh my gosh, you imagine your mom, your grandma, or whatever. You just imagine that, and and I'm like, oh my god, it's the mom from Lost Boys. No, so
that's right. Oh my gosh.
And so it's very disturbing for me, and you start to hate her. You start to hate that person regardless of who she's doing it to. You're like, this is awful, because it's uniquely evil in a way. It's you're not just shooting someone like you see Scarface do or something like that. It's no, you're taking away someone's dignity and humanity in a way, and then you start to imagine yourself as an old person, and it goes down a really dark road mentally when you're watching the movie. But seeing someone who's uniquely evil and so direct too, because you have things that are you have really unique sort of proto villains, the main character from Thank You for Smoking, for instance, where you can argue that person's doing a terrible thing. The world might be better without him around, but you don't see the direct damage or anything like that. So you're able to kind of still like him and want to see him and kind of root for him. Whereas this, you see her actively hurt these people, and you're just oh my gosh. If this other guy succeeds in harming you, I don't care too much. And so That could be a problem.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking about like what was the most frustrating aspect of that movie, because that movie was entertaining to me, but it was just so frustrating that it just came away from it just like, ugh.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that they built up. I think I can go into this enough without spoiling anything. I'm always so, it's hard for me.
Yeah, I know.
But basically they build her up and up throughout the whole first hour of the movie, 45 minutes of the movie, as just awful in every way. You're
horrible.
Like, I don't know how you could cheer for her in any way in the beginning of the movie. And then they bring in somebody who's supposed to be worse. And really, you're cheering for them the whole time.
Yeah.
You're like, I want him to get her. Like, yeah, I'm trying not to like be specific, but it's like, get her, like make her pay. There needs to be some justice here.
Exactly. I mean, you draw the line.
And then what happens is not satisfying at all.
It's really not. If you're looking
even to the very end of this movie, it's not satisfying.
Very much so. It's a chaotic, evil kind of thing where it's like these people don't really get justice. Really, I mean,
nope.
And yeah, I mean, and exactly, you root for the other guy because he's like a mobster. I know we're kind of mild spoilers there, but that's the evil, It's like these
Miles Finch.
Yeah,
I don't know why I just thought of that.
Miles Finch from Elf, not Tyrion Lannister.
That's who this is. He got all his money from writing children's books. And he's a gangster on the side. Exactly. I can actually see that from Miles Finch in that movie.
Definitely, he does seem like
got
a
an
gangster
anger
in that
problems.
movie. But yeah, it's like you don't see him whack anyone. You figure the people he does are other criminals and stuff like that. And then you have this woman who's like, "No, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna like destroy your grandmother's dignity, and you'll never be able to see her again. And I'm gonna make all the bunch of money off her." I'm like, oh, that's just like, ugh. They couldn't have picked a more like hateful thing for the main character to do. Really, like.
I came away with it not knowing if I liked that movie or not. It was entertaining, I'll say that, but I don't know. It's so frustrating. It's just like, ugh.
It's one of those things where it is very entertaining, very well made. I'm glad I watched it. I'll never watch it again, really, and it didn't leave me with like a great feeling after I watched it. I was just kind of like, ugh, afterwards.
You want some satisfaction by the end of the movie you're watching.
Yeah.
I did not get that at all.
Or something learned, and it wasn't really like a sense of, there was no like sense of comeuppance or anything like that, as there often is in these rise and fall kind of stories. But yeah, no. But oddly enough, I still recommend it if that sounds like, if you could get through that and say, yeah, this is a villain story. I'm watching a bad person and I can spend 2 hours with that person and still get some enjoyment out of the movie. Then it's like, yeah, I recommend it as much as you can recommend a movie like that, because it's a good movie. I mean, and Rosamund Pike is amazing in it. And so is Tyrion. I feel so bad.
Tyrion Lannister.
Tyrion Lannister. They're both amazing.
Yep.
And so
Miles Finch's brother, Tyrion Lannister. I don't know. It's good.
It's good stuff. Other than that,
in a way, it's good.
In a way,
worth a watch.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm watching a bunch of stuff, man. I'm starting a bunch of stuff, so I'm not gonna talk about any of them a lot. I've started playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yes, you have.
I'm doing some streams
Jordan
of that.
Streams. Everyone is listening.
I'm streaming.
You should watch his stream.
Check it out. I'm having fun with it.
He's a Twitch man.
This is
You've really cleaned up your stream. I enjoy it.
Oh, thank you.
You're doing a lot better job. I think the computer probably helps a lot. Not as much delay. Your video's looking good.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Wow.
Go follow him on Twitch.
Yeah, we're having some fun.
What's your username, Jordan?
Paint me Jordan. Check her out.
You have any kind of schedule, or are you just doing it?
Right. I'm trying to have a schedule. It's going to be on the regular, definitely every Friday, except for this one because it's me and my wife's anniversary. We're going out of town, but that's usually when I'm going to do it, is Fridays.
Right.
And,
yesterday was your anniversary.
Yeah, yesterday was our anniversary. We had a very nice meal. Thank you. But yeah, I'm having fun with that game. I played the first game, and so far, I like this one better in every single way. I think the character is better, music's better, the gameplay is a little bit better, the stories kind of has me going a little bit more. Good stuff. But not too much to say. I'm only 10 hours into what's probably going to take me like 70 hours to actually beat the thing. So, you know the drill.
Yep, I do all too well.
Yeah, I've started. This is something like a lot of my friends, like, well, no, I say a lot. I mean, a couple of my friends, like, they're always watching so many animes, and I love anime, but I'm not the kind of anime person that's like I'm watching 6 of them or anything like that. And so usually when one gets recommended to me, I'll end up forgetting about it and being, oh yeah, shoot. But no, I'm taking some initiative. I'm starting to watch a couple. And so far they're both fantastic. One of them is called Dr. Stone. I think it's probably the most unique one because it's different from any anime that I've seen. It's about the world is basically turned to stone. Just one day, just a flash of light, and everyone is turned to stone. And these two characters who are like the main characters, they like they're like conscious the whole time, and thousands of years pass, and basically all of humanity falls, and most of everyone's turned to stone. But one of them wakes up, and that person is like a high school student, but he's a genius, like a freaking genius. He has so much knowledge. He's not like a fighter or anything like that, but he's a genius. And so he's like, I'm going to rebuild humanity. I'm going to figure out how to unfreeze people, and I'm going to, set up civilization again. I want technology back. It's cool. It's just so cool. I don't know. I love the whole idea. It makes really small things so exciting because he's like, we're going to make gunpowder. And he like talks about like the components in gunpowder, saying we're going to skip 1 billion years in human evolution or something like that. And talk about how he's going to make like a light bulb. And it's so cool. I don't know. I love it. And there's obviously a threat, but I don't know. Great stuff. And also a show called Demon Slayer, which is fantastic, but it's a lot more of a kind of a basic kind of plot. Anime does this a lot where there'll be like a very basic plot, but the rules and the kind of the details are very unique. It's just, you hear the word Demon Slayer, it brings
about
up
the Doom Slayer's brother, Demon Slayer.
Might as well. I mean, it's one of those things where it brings up all the thoughts you would think of when you hear the word Demon Slayer. It's something similar to that. It's
all the thoughts.
He becomes a demon slayer, except it's like more of like a feudal Japan kind of thing. And so, except there's a lot of cool things about how he's able to fight the demons and like the rules of being a demon slayer. It's in the animation is incredible, actually. Like, I was like, man, this is like movie quality animation in this like TV series. So cool stuff. That's it though. I'm starting a lot of stuff. I'll probably talk about them again once I either catch up or watch enough to where I'm like, okay, I finished this season or I finished this. But yeah, cool to be watching anime more. How about you, man? Been watching anything?
I've been watching a few things. It's tough working around the house and watching the baby. It's
juggling a baby.
It's honestly, it's like just whenever he is quiet and calm, just try to go to sleep. Unfortunately, so it's like I so want to like pick up my controller and play a game. I so want to watch a movie, and when I can, I do. But yeah, it's been hard. So my wife wanted to watch 2 Weeks Notice, so we got to watch that. It's a good movie, man. Like, I'm not big into rom-coms, but I'll recognize when got to recognize games sometimes, and that movie's pretty good. Just I think they did something special back in the day that I feel like so many rom-coms now just, I don't know, don't put me in the feels in the way that those movies did. Like movies like 50 First Dates, for instance. Like that's another one that's just like, it just has a good blend of like comedy and but 2 Weeks Notice, I'd say, would kind of like that, and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Like it's just a good mix of like good acting, a decent script, and funny enough, and it just has the good. Anyways, yeah.
Do you feel like it's the next?
A lot of people know 2 Weeks Notice, but
the Netflixification of rom-coms, to where I think maybe everyone's like, we can just put them all.
It's kind of the Hallmark effect.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Hallmark started it. Netflix. I wouldn't say that Netflix is, especially those holiday ones that we've talked about. It's like they're not really any better than Hallmark movies.
No.
And I hate criticizing people, but I just really don't like Hallmark movies and never have. I've
No.
always thought they're just not enjoyable to watch. I like watching a lot of kinds of movies, but those movies are just so hard. The story is just so not interesting to me. And most of the time the acting is pretty terrible. So it's just like, without those two things, what is a movie?
I like how you said the story, not the stories, because it is just the story, just the one.
Yeah. Well, I just mean any of these movies you pick out, the story is usually not good. So it's like,
they are pretty much just the one
you're right,
story.
but yeah, it's like, oh, it's just tough. So anyways, yeah, 2 weeks notice. That was good. Watching kind of still a little bit of Reno 911 when I have some time. It's kind of the funny show to watch, and yeah, it's just
laugh while you can.
It's just the goofiest show ever. And yeah, I find there's some parts of episodes that just kind of drag on, but they find a way to make me laugh each episode in some way. And then the one that I'm trying to like conquer, it feels like this big mountain to conquer right now, is 2001: A Space Odyssey. I've never watched that movie all the way through, and I'm about maybe a half hour in, 40 minutes, and yeah, there's a lot of interesting things about that movie. And
which
I think I'm going to end up really enjoying it at this point. So let's see. They went to the moon, and then I think it's like right after that whole sequence on the moon, and then it jumps a bunch of years into the future. I think it jumps 30 years. So I feel like just because I've been around sci-fi culture and I've heard people talk about sci-fi things, I kind of know what the story's how it's going to play out.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I mean, just from the little bit I've watched this movie, I see what's so unique about it. I wouldn't say I'm like blown away and, oh, this is my favorite movie ever, but I see how like unique this writing is and how like amazing what Kubrick did, especially, for, I think it was 64. I think I looked it up. It was somewhere right in there. So
yeah, it was like stuff that we didn't even know about space yet. He was in this movie.
And this was before so many movies that you think of. I mean, long before Star Wars, before Star Trek, and it was before so much stuff. And
crazy.
Yeah, really, really cool. Funny to me that he thought in 46 years things would have evolved to this point. I think he was a little conservative in his estimate of how far we would be by then. But
yeah,
the things that he did predict, like I said, I've only watched part of the movie, so I don't know how far he's going to go. But yeah, the things he predicted are, they're things that I can see that we are going to accomplish, but we're not. We're not anywhere near there yet.
Every generation thinks they're in that generation that's going to right around the corner. We're going to get to colonization.
Yeah, I mean, like establishing a base on the moon. It's like, okay. I mean, I don't think that's that outlandish. So
yeah,
I could see that happening. But then, they're going to Venus and stuff. It's like, okay, little bit crazy. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the movie, and I really need to finish it. It's hard to have enough time to sit down and watch all of a movie.
Yeah, of course.
So, especially a movie that I know Bethany isn't really going to enjoy, so it's something I kind of need to watch myself.
When did she leave the room?
Lighthearted, like 2 weeks notice.
When did Bethany leave the room? At the very beginning? And
she was actually out of the room, and I was just like, oh man, I have got to watch this movie. And then she was kind of watching a little bit, and I was trying to explain it to her. She's a good sport most of the time, but I try not to make her suffer through things that I know that she's just not going to enjoy. I can see a lot of people not enjoying a hardcore sci-fi movie like that.
Yeah, so definitely.
I wouldn't force anyone to watch something like that with me, but I want to get through it myself.
For sure. All right.
Other than that, I've been watching WandaVision.
Yeah. Before we get to that, I forgot about this. I'm sorry, CJ. I don't have a exact list for you, but he did ask us what's our top 5 NES and Super NES games of ours. And so yeah, I don't have an exact list, but can you rattle off like some of your favorites or some of the ones that you're like?
I have, for me, it's more about fond memories because I haven't gone back to those games as much since I was that age. And it would definitely be mostly Super Nintendo. I played a couple NES games on the only NES console that was like in my within my purview when I was at that age, and it was out at my aunt's house, and so we'd only visit every once in a while. So whatever she had, so I have fond memories of playing Duck Hunt on NES. I think one of my favorites would be, I believe it's Super Mario Brothers 3.
Super Mario Brothers 3, yeah, that's
the one where you can become the raccoon and like fly with his tail.
Yeah, the Tanuki suit. It's in Mario 3. That's probably okay. So
you would know all these a lot better than me, but I have fond memories of that.
Well, that's it for me as far as thinking about nostalgic NES games for Jordan. That was it. That was the beginning for me. That was the beginning of my nerddom. Yep. I mean, there's a picture
SNES,
that I have
that was
me, receiving
my first console.
Yeah. I have pictures of me getting that set, the one that came with Mario 3, and that was it. That's the first one for me. That's the beginning, and that's my favorite 2D Mario game. And yeah, I mean, if you haven't played that or you haven't really had a chance to sit down and beat it, dude, that's one of the best. One of the best, I think, for Mario.
I think the Mario All-Stars was also one that I played, and it was like, all these games are in one pack. This is amazing.
Exactly. So like it updates the graphics and the sounds, and it's Mario 1, 2, and 3, and also Mario the Lost Levels, which is the Japanese, like the actual Mario 2, the one they released in Japan and didn't release in the United States. So yeah, that's a good package. Yeah, it was too hard for us or whatever they said.
Too hard for us.
Yeah. That never made sense to me because there were games like tear your hair out hard games on the NES, like Ninja Gaiden is ridiculous, and all those 3 were released here. So I don't know. What else? Here's one that's I think a little underrated, and it's a good one. Nemo in Slumberland. That's a really good one for the NES. It's based on the cartoon and the comic. It sounds so goofy, but it's actually a great game. It's a Capcom game where you go around as Nemo in Slumberland, and you capture these different creatures that you need to either get to the end of the level or get the keys to the final door to get to the next level. And like it's like sort of like Kirby in the way, but it's a little bit harder because you need these creatures to like advance and like get to different places that you couldn't access. And it's really charming.
Nemo from the Pixar movie?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is a more obscure Nemo.
Okay.
It was like this movie was out in the 90s and it scared the crap out of me. Called Nemo in Slumberland. It scared the crap out of me when I was a kid, but the video game's really good. Super NES. Shoot. I want to
Turtles in Time.
Turtles
Did you ever play Turtles in Time?
Heck yeah. Turtles game, especially CJ, you have kids who are old enough to play these games. Those are great for like beat 'em up games where you can just sit around with your kids. It's not too hard. You can play it with them, and it's just kind of a beat 'em up. Turtles in Time is a good one for that, I think. Some of those can be hard.
I'd be interested what kids nowadays would think. These older games.
It's kind of, I guess, all about where they start, right? I mean, if they start them off on PS5 and try to take them back, they're gonna be like, "What's this?" but maybe if you start
Super Street Fighter 2, that was another one. I can't remember if I played that on Genesis or Super Nintendo, but I played the crap out of that game back then.
Yeah, I have
and I had the turbo controller on Genesis.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And
I mean, that's a legend.
Oh yeah, one of the best. Again, when I think of the Super Nintendo, that's one of the first ones I think of. A summer playing that game was just childhood to me. Just coming in from a swim, feeling the AC like colder than it normally would be. Me and my towel playing.
Gotta get my Street Fighter on.
Yeah. Yeah. It was horrible. But
of course, we've missed a big one.
What's that?
Star Fox.
Star Fox is fantastic. Star Fox for the Super Nintendo. It's like that was mind blowing at the time. Seeing those, what was this? Those freaking like 3D-esque graphics were just amazing at the time. It made me like feel weird
I
playing
love that game.
Yeah, and something that I think for your kids too, like a really, if you want to play something classic, but something that the kids can definitely handle. I mentioned Kirby before. Kirby was great because I wasn't very good when I was a kid. And I was able to like beat Kirby, and I felt like a sense of accomplishment because Kirby isn't ridiculously hard. It's actually quite easy. So Kirby's Adventure for the NES or Kirby Superstar for the Nintendo 64, Kirby's Dream Land 3. They're all very good. And
a lot of these were on that Super Nintendo Classic.
yeah, that's right.
So we got those. So that is kind of an easy way to do it.
If you want to break into Legend of Zelda, I would say Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past was the way to go. The first two are kind of hard to go back to, in my opinion, sometimes. I mean, the first one's so cryptic, and the second one's so challenging as it's a 2D game, 2D platformer, and it's so challenging and like it's not a walk in the park at all, and it's kind of it's strange. It's a strange thing because Zelda never went back to that style, but classic Zelda I think is kind of encapsulated in Link to the Past.
That's IGN's number one.
Wow, really?
Well, A Link to the Past is
SNES game. Okay, wow, that's a really good one.
I think, I had to go back to the list because I couldn't remember some of these. I think I remembered at least like seeing somebody play this, but the Return of the Jedi on SNES.
Oh God!
For some reason, I think I remember that. I know I didn't own it, but I think there was this other kid that I used to play with, and we played some of those older games. I know we played original PlayStation, but I don't know if we went back as far as SNES. But he was like the first kid I got to play. Mortal Kombat with, like, blood.
Well, we're bad kids. We're playing Mortal Kombat. Yeah.
Oh, that boy's spitting out blood. He just got punched. Ooh. The Return of the Jedi. That'd be another one.
Those games were ridiculous. The Super Nintendo, they had like, it was Super Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Super Star Wars, Return of the Jedi. They're hard. They're so hard. I had them at the time, but I wasn't able to beat a single one. Not a single one. I was able to get to like the last level in like all of them.
Games are hard.
There was something about the last level.
Now.
They're hard now. Absolutely. Like even more so maybe, where you're like, when you go back to them, and if you're not using save states, it's a kick in the stomach when you realize, oh my God.
Wonder, was I just stupid? And I was like, no. These are awful. Some torture devices.
Yeah, some games I go back and I'm like to RPGs or like strategy games. Some of them I'm like, okay, I go back and I'm like, I didn't have the patience to figure this game out. But some of those side scrollers, like they're just like, get to the end of the level. Some of them are just ridiculous. Unforgiving. I hope we gave. Oh, if you want to get into some old RPGs, like turn-based RPG, the SNES was the console for that. I think it was still a little too early for the NES to really break through, even though they had a lot of them. Like obviously Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest got their start there, but Super Nintendo is the way to go. Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, Earthbound. Those are the ones. But anyways. There you go. I hope that's enough. I hope that's enough to get you started. I think that was that was a wide-ranging list we just spouted out, even though it wasn't like number 5 or anything like that. But anyways, all right.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. On to the main attraction. WandaVision. All right, so this just ended Friday last week, and we've both been able to watch it, and let's go ahead and it's hard to talk about this show without spoiling it, really. So, I mean, let's just be really quick about it and let's talk about like kind of how we felt and then just dive right in.
Yeah. What a ride.
What a ride.
We're in a very different place than we were when we first talked about this first few episodes.
No kidding. I mean, like we talked about it on the show where we were
we had it all figured out.
I don't know. Yeah. It's like, I need to listen back to our discussion there. It'd be really entertaining to be like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
At that point, we didn't much to go on, So
I definitely had a feeling that it was like, okay, it's probably going to go in this direction, but I'll admit it pretty much didn't go where I thought it was going to go at all. So I was caught off guard by, I wouldn't say everything, but a lot of things that happen.
Same. Same. I think it's definitely the ride. I think is the best thing about this show. You know, it's funny. The week to week ride was a great experience. I think like watching this show week to week and thinking about it and like kind of dealing with the latest revelation or the latest mystery. I think it was a lot of fun in that way.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree with the week to week. I've said before, it's just hard for me to.
Yeah.
We try to watch American Idol. It's just hard for us to like remember to watch stuff. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if we. I always act like I have so much going on. I know I'm sure other people have a lot more going on, but I just get distracted. I want to keep up with it right when it happens, and I think it is a cool thing, but it's just hard for me to do it this way. So I end up always, it seems like, behind, and then if we have dinner or something, I feel left out because I haven't watched it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it is a cool idea. I wish I could keep up with this kind of stuff better.
We have one more week of break from that because Falcon Winter Soldier starts next week.
Yeah, that's right.
Crazy.
Well, we're already like 3 episodes behind on American Idol.
Oh, shoot.
At least there's finally stuff to watch. There was a period at which I felt like I'd kind of run out of things that I wanted to watch, and that's why I was kind of starting to be like, okay, there's a lot of old movies that I know I haven't watched, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and so yeah, I was trying to watch more of those. But now there's seems like there's a few more shows coming out, especially the Marvel stuff, and yeah.
Absolutely, and it's great to have Marvel back. It gives you a good feeling when that Marvel fanfare comes on at the beginning.
So long,
or whatever, and you're like, "Yeah, baby." But yeah, great ride. I overall have a really good feeling about this show. I will say we'll talk about it more in just a few minutes, but there are some disappointments I have with the ending and how it wrapped up. I think a lot of people feel similar, maybe for different reasons, but we'll talk about it. I feel like it could have given better resolution to the things that it was building up. But either way. All right. So anything else you want to say before we move on to some spoiler stuff?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So I feel like we're going to talk a lot about the ending, which is probably what most people want to hear, and I think we have probably the most to say about. But how did you feel about like the sitcom nature of most of the show? It's like, because that's not present in like the last 2 episodes. It's like, oh yeah, we're done with that. But like for by and large, the show is mostly that sitcom stuff when we're not like hanging out with Sword.
Yeah, I think it was unique, and I think it was an interesting thing to do. I don't know if it was my favorite way of the story being told, but I can recognize that it was unique. And it's like, we've told stories like what's going to happen. If you look overall at the story of WandaVision, we've made, I'm speaking as Marvel, we've made movies like this. This essentially is a Marvel movie made into a TV show, basically. And so this isn't that unlike those other movies. If you were to just take, the story, and if you were to play it out like it was Dark World or something, it's like, this is essentially that with, some different twists and different characters. And so I think Marvel said, we've done that shtick now several times, and we can get it right. We have that formula down as pat as a studio could ever know how to make a movie. So let's throw something crazy at them and see what happens. And so I can recognize that that's cool. It dragged a little bit in those episodes for me. It just, I didn't keep my attention as much, especially, obviously in the like 50s and 60s. It just wasn't as interesting for me. But yeah, so I'm kind of like in between. It's like, I find it interesting that they did that, but not as entertaining. So, okay.
Yeah, I feel like there's some good parts in that. Like, it kind of makes you feel like throughout the sitcom-y stuff, like you're not really laughing, really. Did you ever laugh like at the sitcom stuff, like unironically?
No, and especially like I said, in the 50s and 60s, like versions of the shows. And I feel like I'm missing the boat on so many references in this show. I'll be honest. I feel I feel so stupid. It's like even when they did the whole like it was Agnes all along. It's like I know they're talking about a TV show, but I don't know. I guess I never watched that show.
I'm kind of with you there. I mean,
it makes me feel so stupid. It's like I know this should be obvious if I'm, consider myself a cinephile, but
I know.
I don't know what you're referencing.
I know. I mean, honestly, I'll cards on the table here. I was never the kind of person that would gather around with my mom or my grandma and watch like episode upon episode of I Love Lucy. I know I'm a bad person. I'm going to hell or whatever.
Or even like Malcolm in the Middle or something. Like, they reference those shows, and it's like that was even more during our time. And I'm like, I watched a few episodes.
Yeah.
I know that style well enough to know that's Malcolm in the Middle or Modern Family or something, but I haven't watched a lot of that.
Yeah, there's a couple of them that I'm like, okay, I feel a little bit more at home. Like the 80s, and for me, Malcolm in the Middle, I've watched a lot of Malcolm in the Middle, but the 80s one for me where I'm like, okay, we're in Growing Pains land. That's a little bit more of what I watched, like that sort of Full House. That I've watched a lot of that, when
Full House, I've watched more of Full House.
Yeah, which is funny because it's an Olsen, but
yeah.
But yeah, when the sitcom stuff was happening, I did get the sense that I was just waiting for the next break in character, the next reveal. Like I was waiting for the next.
It was especially true. I think of the first 3 episodes.
Yes,
it was like, okay, I get it.
Because way less often. It was way less often. They weren't cutting to sword. They were very much like there was 1 or 2
the like
breaks.
Drone, I think at the end was like one of the big things, and the guy with the bee suit coming up out of the sewer.
Yeah, you're like, okay, interesting. I'm interested for the story to get going. That's kind of how you felt. And I felt like, I think the same for most people, like it started to really pick up once it left the Hex and you start seeing the people in Sword, and you're like, oh, it's Agent Wu and Darcy and this new character that we're getting to know, and so
I would almost have rather it have gone either one way or the other, been more mysterious through a bunch of episodes with a huge reveal, or been not super mysterious at all and just kind of told us the story like linearly.
Yeah, there it is.
In a linear fashion.
Yeah.
Just like they have in the other movies. So yeah, I think it would have been more interesting if it had just been like, I have no idea what's going on. I have no what? Oh my God. And it wasn't that. It was more like, very interesting. 2 episodes in, 3 episodes in, interesting. And then it was basically like, okay, we know what's going on.
Exactly.
By the 4th episode.
That's right.
It was like, we didn't know everything because there was another witch there. But other than that, it was like, okay.
Yeah, you just don't know who the villain is. Other than that, you're like, okay, I know what's going on. I know what that beekeeper was. You find all that stuff out so quickly, and you just understand like what the story is at that point, which is fine. It just it toes the line, So I see what you're saying. Where it's kind of
we realized when we watched the final episode too, that we had missed some of those after credit scenes. So the first few episodes didn't have any after the credit scenes, right?
No,
there was a couple. I fast forward and there wasn't any, and then all of a sudden in the last episode they're referencing things in the after the credits. So I'm like, wait, what? So we went back and like, there's like 3 episodes I think that have after the credits scenes, but then I think the other ones didn't.
I think so. And it was that makes
like
it
that.
Yeah, that makes it confusing. I mean, like I'm lucky.
Either do it or don't.
Yeah, exactly. I always wait for Disney Plus to basically kick me out and say, "Hey, we recommend Age of Ultron." So I was able to see him, but only because I sat there, and and why would I have, other than the fact that I'm weird. But yeah, that's a weird thing to do, to be like, oh, we're not gonna do that. But
especially when it's important things that you reference later, it's like, wait, what?
Exactly. You see the previously on, and you're like, wait, when did I see that?
Yeah.
How weird is it to see a previously on and see like Thanos and like scenes from Endgame and Infinity War? Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
What a weird concept.
Yeah. Crazy.
Anyways, what did you think about the whole thing with Sword and like getting to know these people and all that stuff?
I feel like we never really got to know these people though. It was so very like, okay, here they are. They're here because of this event, but there really wasn't a lot of explanation. It was like, remember these characters, and then there's these people that are just here, and then you kind of get hints, and then it's all of a sudden you kind of piece together what they're doing. But I don't feel like I know the director at all, so it's just like, okay. And
Yeah.
it really does feel like they're just taking over for what was the before
Shield.
Hydra. Yeah,
Coulson.
Shield.
Yeah.
Shield / Hydra. It
Yeah.
really just feels like, are they this the new version? Are we gonna find out they're Hydra later or something?
Yeah, there was like a few things where you're like, you think that something really of consequence is going to happen. Like there's an end to one episode where she expands the hex. And you're like, oh snap. What
Right.
is this going to, what's going to happen now? And like Darcy gets swallowed up by it. And you're like, wow, what's that going to mean? And then next episode, Vision just sees her and just undoes the effects of the hex. And you're like, oh, okay. She just kind of there for a little bit, and it's not really anything of consequence, which there's some stuff like that where you feel like they're setting up something, but then they just don't really do anything with it. So that's a thing. Okay. How about Agatha? What do you feel about Agatha once that was revealed?
I think Catherine Hahn, she did a good job. It's good acting. I don't know a lot about what this means. I'm hoping that you know more about like this other witch, and like I don't know this character, so I feel like if I had known more backstory on who this was, it would have been more significant, that reveal. As it was just like, oh, crazy. Who are you? That was more my feeling when it was revealed. It was like, oh, she's some witch.
My name's Agatha. Agatha Harkness.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
oh, okay. Yeah. She's Agatha.
I guess I like it when two stories are told and then they're brought together in the way Infinity War Endgame brought together all the stories that were told. And so for me, this just wasn't as interesting. It was cool that there was a twist at the end, but it didn't mean as much because I didn't know that character. And I would have liked to have known who that was. So it would have been like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like she's kind of that character in name only, really. I mean, she doesn't like do a lot of the things that Agatha Harkness does from, the little I do know about her. And Agatha Harkness in the comics isn't really that much of an antagonist. She's almost kind of like this middle ground in a way. This other aspect of the mystical world, but not a villain like that's portrayed here, where it's like this dark, sinister force.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, fun. I think like a lot of the things that people liked about her character and liked about her performance kind of went away once she like revealed herself, I think, and once her song was over, once her song was over, I think like the spunkiness or whatever and the zaniness was kind of gone in place of classic, you don't know the power that you're dealing, that sort of stuff. Yeah. I know that trick too,
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah. It's more something that we've seen, and so it's not as fresh. Yeah.
Exactly. Whenever
it's
she's
a hard thing when so many things have come before, though. So
yeah,
you can only do so much. But she gave a great performance. I mean,
yeah, she was great. Absolutely. You know what? I want to say this before I forget. Everyone's great. I think doing, regardless of how weird you think it is, doing all those different eras of sitcom stuff, they were great. They were doing a great job going through all that. Yeah, and giving like just kind of like, all right, this is a little bit different performance because we're in a new decade, all the way up to, I guess, the Modern Family-esque Office Ally McBeal kind of thing, or that they were doing towards the end. I don't know if Ally McBeal's in there. I just kind of, I don't know. I didn't watch Ally McBeal. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Very Modern Family, though, for sure.
Oh yeah, very Modern Family. So let's talk about the end here. If you want to do it, I think we're gonna talk the longest about the end. If I had to guess,
do it.
Yeah, I already said I thought the end was a disappointment in a lot of ways, but in a way though, it did what it needed to do the most just fine, I think. Like the things that it needed to do, it did okay.
I think I was okay with the end, so I'm interested in what you didn't were disappointed in.
Yeah, I mean, as far there's a lot of people like kind of I feel like when they're talking about this being like fan theories, because a lot of people were like, where's Mephisto on all that stuff. I'm not that, but I am a little annoyed by the Quicksilver thing. The fact that like here's Evan Peters as Quicksilver. He's a speedster. He is a speedster, and
I can agree with that.
And it's like, nope, boner joke, and you're just like, I got like flashbacks.
Yeah, I did feel that way. I do agree with that.
I was like,
that was pretty annoying.
What? Because I was on my feet. I was saving this to talk about it. I was on my feet when he showed up in the episode that he showed up in. I couldn't believe it. And I think everyone was the same way. They're doing this. I can't believe they're doing this. And it's like, they're not doing this. Okay. They're just not. And it's so strange. What a strange. I talk a lot about this, about how I feel like a lot of writers will get kind of caught up in what they're doing. They kind of lose touch with certain decisions where they, because they've interviewed about this recently and they're like, we never really meant that to be as like a prank or whatever. And I believe them, but
how do you think people are going to feel though?
I mean, that you don't, I'm sure when they were writing that, they're like, oh, that's so funny. Or like, I can't believe we got this cool cameo and that's neat, but no one solid as that. Everyone knows that the Fox merger happened. Mutants are coming. Everyone knows that. And so it's just so strange where they're just like, you know what? Never mind.
My biggest thing is, what are they going to do now? Now that they've done that, what do they do? Are you going to consider this show not a part of, canon? Because that would be unlike anything you've done before. So
no way.
What are you going to do with him? You can't use Evan Peters again? Or are you just going to do something goofy to throw him in again? Because I'm not going to like that. There's no out other than just not using him again. There's no way to make this right, I feel like.
No, it's just forever going to be the thing that you thought was going to be this thing, but ended up being Ralph Boner. And that's just, that's just...
And we have no Quicksilver. That's the conclusion that is so frustrating. You've now killed off one and made some lame excuse for why the other one doesn't exist. So it's like, what does that mean?
Exactly. They had their way of doing this. It was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is their way of doing this. I guess not. It's just such a strange thing. Everything else, the thing where Mephisto's going to show up or Reed Richards is going to show up. I don't care. They weren't setting any of that up. That would have been cool, but that's nothing that they
didn't even think about those.
I get, there was a lot of stuff going around, but this is something that they waved in front of our face and they said, gotcha. Regardless of whether or not they meant gotcha, it definitely felt like a gotcha to, I think, everyone watching, and a weird gotcha because it's like, I'm Ralph Boner and he's like, please don't kill me. Please don't kill. And that's the last you see of him. It's just so weird.
So frustrating.
Yeah. And I did, this might paint a lot of my just kind of perspective on this. I did hear that they had a lot of problems with COVID in filming this season finale. There were like supposed to be a lot of different things going on that they just didn't. Did you realize how Darcy
I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah, Darcy just disappears in this. Do you realize that? She came in, said one line, like, you're going to jail or something. And then like the next scene, she's like, oh, she didn't want to stick around. And she's just gone. There was like supposed to be a bunch of other stuff and it's just not there. And it feels weird, I think, that you were talking about this with that sword team with them. Everything just felt weird. Cause like, I'm fine if like Agent Wu and Darcy don't accomplish a lot, but they didn't do anything. They just kind of show up a little bit at the end and then they're just gone. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you reached the end of their journey.
And they were such a big part of the story after like episode 3, I think.
Yeah, they were in it a lot. They were in every episode. And so it's strange. And I think the worst of all was Monica Rambeau. That, for me, I was just like, what are you guys doing? I know you're setting up at this point, now that I've seen it, for Secret Wars. They're the TV show with Nick Fury and a bunch of Skrulls hanging out in space. But
so this is the daughter of the lady who was friends with Captain Marvel.
Yes, that's the little
They're both
girl.
Rambos.
But
Rambio.
Yeah, there's just a few strange things with her that just I was like, they're setting her up. I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with her, and I never felt like they got there. And for them to just say
her saving the child, that was, I guess, supposed to be the big thing.
Yeah, we'll talk about the children. I got things to say about the children as well. But enough. All right, enough about that. How'd you think of Vision and the Vision?
I like that. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It was kind of strange how, they refer to the stone, and he's like, I don't have the stone. And the other guy doesn't say, like, I don't have the stone either, because he didn't have the stone. He was just formed by Wanda. So nobody had the stone.
Yeah.
Like, the stone got plucked out. It was never there. So do you remember that when they're like comparing their differences? And
I don't have the stone either.
Yeah, I love that. I love that discussion. Elaborate.
I know that was a great scene.
Elaboration is required.
And I do love that scene.
They're in like a circular library, and it's like doing the like circular camera around as they're talking. And yeah, I thought that was a really cool way to bring back Vision. But what I didn't understand is why he just flew away, because that doesn't make any sense. If he got his memories back, he wouldn't fly away. He'd go down there and help Wanda, and everything would be fine. Because you'd have two Visions helping you.
I am wondering myself the reasons behind that. I mean, hopefully we find out at another time.
Yeah, hopefully there's a justification for it. I hate it when they just do things like that and then they never address it. It's like, well, this doesn't make any sense. And Marvel's usually pretty good about getting those kind of details right.
And yeah, you're right. And I don't know, maybe again, it's hard to say. I hate this whole there was this, so we'll never know what was supposed to be a different way and what was exactly like they wanted.
They may explain it. I mean, honestly, they could very well explain it in another movie where Vision shows up. They could explain how he got all that information and then realized he had to do something at that moment or something. They may explain that. I hope they do.
I'll say this about this finale, because I'm about to say a lot of negative stuff. I want to remind you that I did really like this series. I could have loved it. But instead I really liked it. And that's good. I really liked it. But something I did think was great and well handled was Vision in this last episode. I thought he was really good. I think he gave the really good performance from him playing a different Vision. I thought that performance was different enough and unique. Yeah. And I was like, I like hearing this Vision. It's kind of cool. This emotionless, more robotic Vision when they're talking about the ship of Theseus. I'm like, this is cool. And at the end, I thought it was really good. And I have one more question. What am I? That was good. It was well delivered and it was sad. And I was like, man, yeah, I'm glad Paul Bettany's still around in another form playing this character in a different way because he's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems like there could be a lot more future with Vision, I guess.
Yep.
I was sure hoping there were. I was like, man, Paul Bettany got built up for so long as Jarvis, and then he finally gets his role, and it's such a short-lived thing. And yeah, I never felt like he was able to like use his full potential in battle as well. So I hope he gets to like be at least in somebody else's movie, if not get his own movie at some point, and like be Vision.
So I think the rest of this episode is going to talk about probably the last remaining real topic is Wanda in this whole thing. What Wanda is, what she's doing, what she's done. Yeah, I mean, how did that all land for you? Because what I will say is I found Wanda to be at the end of this unlikable, and I know they're probably building her up to be a villain. But the way it's like, when you're like, this person's awful in like a show or something, and then the show doesn't seem to be recognizing the fact that person's awful. It's almost like the show doesn't know that this person's awful. I got that feeling here a little bit with Wanda.
Well, I feel like it's almost more of like the way they've handled Scarlet Witch all along, though, isn't it? Like, this was always kind of who she was, and they've played her up as this good person the whole time.
Yeah, but
do I just have a misconception of who Scarlet Witch is?
I mean, I think what you're describing is how she's kind of should be, sort of, in this like kind of almost morally gray kind of area, but like at the same time, like in Civil War, she killed a bunch of people at a Wakandan embassy, and she moped around for half the movie, and like feeling bad, like I'm terrible, I can't believe I did that. And then like having to like face that, I guess, towards the end of it. And this one,
I think that's probably partially because they're trying to go for such a younger, inexperienced, doesn't know who she is. They're definitely going in a different direction. This is not Scarlet Witch. This is Wanda, and I think that's what they're trying to prove here. It's like, this isn't the Scarlet Witch from the comics. This is Wanda. This is almost a new character that's evolving into the character that you know from the comics.
Yeah, and I feel that we're going in that direction. We're taking it in this weird villain route. But let's just get into it. I mean, she tortured a town for weeks, maybe months, because of her grief, to where she put the town in like under some weird hypnosis that's apparently painful and basically mind controls them and separates them from their children. There's that scene where she's like, will you let my daughter out of her room, please? I haven't seen her in so long. And then like, and it seems like they kind of toe the line where it's like, oh, she can't control it. I didn't know what I was doing. But then she's like, no, I was helping. She like tries to explain to them, I was doing something good for you guys or whatever. And it's like she tries to justify it for a little bit. And then she kind of gives a half-hearted apology to Monica. And what Monica says is what really set me on end, because otherwise I'll be like, yeah, she's the villain. She's becoming a villain, and this is her road to being a villain. But what Monica said was something along the lines of, they'll never know what you gave up for them. And saying like, I would have done the same if it was my mom, if I could do that for my mom. And I was like, what in the world are you talking about? Really? You're justifying the fact that she like tortured these people so she could mess around with her imaginary boyfriend and her imaginary kids?
And it also doesn't make sense because there's no reason she couldn't have done what she did with her family, but not controlled the entire city.
Exactly.
She could have just done it in a normal city and just simulated her family, and walked around the city.
That's exactly right. Exactly. She didn't need to have a bunch of meat puppets basically walk around in agony as she's hanging out with Vision. Yeah, it's like, wow.
Maybe the argument would be it only worked inside that bubble, so she couldn't like create this mobile version of it. Like that wasn't possible.
Yeah, that might be the
Maybe
case.
That would be the argument against what I'm saying. I haven't thought about it long enough.
But yeah, zero responsibility. She just flies off. They just stare at her, and she's like, they hate, like almost like playing the victim. It's like, you don't hate me too. I was like, why wouldn't they hate you? You tortured them. It's like, are you kidding?
But I mean, I agree with you, but I think in a way I disagree, because I think if Marvel is doing what it seems like they're doing, I think that does kind of stay true to the character that they've developed in Wanda. Wanda is someone who has an evil nature that she isn't as in tune with, and is coming to grips with that fact. And it started with her killing those people in Wakanda, and it's continuing with her torturing these people. It's like she tends towards a darker side. She's not Captain America. She's not someone who's going to stand up for what's right no matter what the cost is. She's going to do what she wants to do because she lives for herself. Let's be honest. She tries to be selfless like Captain America, but that doesn't fit her well. And that's why mistakes were made. And that's why her brother ended up dying, because she wasn't thinking of him. So, whether this is actually what Marvel was thinking or not, I'm just kind of providing my own theory here. And I think you can kind of see a good theme that they developed, and they've kind of stuck to their guns on that. So
yeah,
I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, I think it is kind of cool that they have developed something that they have stayed with. And so, yeah, it's not that unusual for them to head in that direction. And it whether or not we like it in the end, I don't know. You know, whether or not we like Wanda to become this, you know, Scarlet Witch that's kind of stands for everything against what the Avengers stand for, which is, you know, standing for truth and justice, and that's Superman. But, you know, essentially the same idea. I don't know. We'll see. I think it is cool that they kind of stuck to their guns and they have kind of developed this character that is in a way evil. I wouldn't say she's pure evil, like you said. She's in a gray area, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens after she leaves that cabin. I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The only, I think, honestly, I would be completely fine with it if it was just what Monica said. I think really just hit me the wrong way.
Yeah.
If she just stared at her and was just like, "Go, get out of here," and she flew off, that would have rang better to me, because Monica seemed to be like a moral compass, and for her to be like, "They just don't understand," I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, girl? But yeah. And then I mean, she's there at the end. They're obviously setting her up as the villain when she's looking at that book, looking evil as hell.
Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm interested to see what they do. I mean, they're obviously setting up something with maybe a showdown with Stephen Strange. They even name dropped his title with Scarlet Witch, supposed to be more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. So, I mean, cool stuff for sure, as far as implications.
And maybe Captain Rambo will. Isn't that her name? Captain Rambo?
Is she a captain?
They call her that? Something like that?
I think she has the rank of captain, I think. That would be interesting.
I thought they said something like that. Anyways, or maybe it was just Agent Rambo. Yeah, it'll be interesting what role she has to play, because it seems like their stories are now intertwined. So
yeah, they have some connection.
Maybe she'll have to face off against Wanda, kind of like she did in the show.
Absolutely.
I don't like her being the villain. I'll be honest. I don't like her being the villain, but I do like that Marvel has stuck to their guns. I like the way they've developed that story, but I just like Elizabeth Olsen. So I hate I hate not cheering for her. She's just such a sweethearted actress. It's hard to think of her in there's some actors, it's just you play a villain so well, and I don't know, it's hard for me to see Elizabeth Olsen as that character.
And honestly, if they do this well, it could be amazing, in a really bittersweet kind of way, because they could be Dark Phoenix better than the X-Men movies have ever done Dark Phoenix, because Jean Grey is supposed to be this sweet character. It just hurts your feelings.
We need a better Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, we need a better Dark Phoenix. And
that's for sure.
This could be that, where it really hurts your feelings to see this character that you like to root for, you think is so sweet, do terrible things and lose her moral compass. That could make for a really great villain, and they're obviously only just getting started. So I don't know. We'll see.
It's definitely interesting. I mean, I was okay with the ending, but I get your argument.
Honestly, it's one of those things where I think the show did what it needed to do, though. I think the main crux of the show, which is dealing with the wrap up and the aftermath of Wanda's grief and that whole situation. I mean, a lot of people talk about that scene where she says goodbye to the kids, and they, that scene, of course, what am I and all that stuff. I think that's great. Yep. And they flash through all the eras as they're kissing. That's great stuff. That's great imagery. I felt that in the moment. I wasn't crying or anything, but I was like, yeah, this is sad.
Didn't really make sense, but it was fun to watch.
No, exactly. It's the thing that happens just so it's for the audience.
It's just a movie thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's fine. That's fine.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the kids. Something I want to say about the kids. Anytime the kids were involved and it's oh no, the kids. I don't give a crap about those kids. I know it's sad, it's mean because they're kids and you're supposed to care.
Yeah.
But there's something just about them that it creeps me out. Just the weird thing. Oh, you're too young for a dog. Whoop, 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 whoop. And then they're older. I'm like, ugh. That creeps me out. Yeah. I don't like it.
I agree.
And they're weird. They're what are they? Did you rip their souls from something? What are they? Are they demons? I don't know. And so when they're bye kids, and they're sitting in their beds all kind of smiling creepy, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. The whole idea of Vision being formed by whatever.
The part
Whatever
of
it
the
was formed
Mind
by
Stone that's in
is kind
her.
of weird, and
Yeah.
that's basically what the kids are too. So it's like,
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
that whole thing is kind of strange. She's like
Weird.
forming human life from nothing.
Yeah, and
It's a weird idea.
and she hears their cries when she's like meditating. Like you hear them cry out to her. So I don't know what's going on. I mean, honestly,
and will they ever touch on that again? I would find that interesting to find out.
Definitely. I mean, a lot of people are pointing at Mephisto or something like that. I think that's that sort of supernatural entity is something that we're going to be getting at some point, whether it's Mephisto or something else. I think that's likely. I think that's very likely, because I mean, that would be the classic Mephisto thing to show up and be like, "You want to see your children again? Well, you have to do this." You know, that sort of deal with the devil kind of situation.
Yeah,
would make sense.
That would really turn her into the villain.
Yep. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we didn't cover.
That would be a good time to bring Ghost Rider into the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Baby. Ghost Rider, bring Nick Cage back into it, and he's
my God. You think that could ever happen?
Nick
Jordan?
Wiener or something towards
Did you ever see that Ghost Rider actually riding in on his blazing?
Not as Nick Cage, but maybe one day.
No, but
maybe one day.
Really?
Not anytime soon, though. I can't.
Is it when they run out of stuff to do?
It's just, yeah. I like Ghost Rider. I'd like to see him again, but I don't know if they're gonna do that anytime soon. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know. When are they gonna get to Ghost Rider? I mean, come on. When are they gonna get to that? I don't know.
Who would have thought they would have gotten to Guardians of the Galaxy so early?
That's true. No, that's true. Yeah, I mean, maybe he could team up with Blade. I don't know. Who knows?
Who would have thought Captain Marvel would come after Guardians of the Galaxy?
Right. Yeah. You're not wrong, or Spider-Man for that matter. But anyways.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's a different thing.
Yeah. But do you think that
good show?
Good show. You know, and I'm happy they swung. They swung hard with this one, and it's good to see. I admire that.
They got most of the ball.
Yeah, exactly. For it to not completely just fly into the foul. I'm about to talk about baseball, and I have no right. Sorry. You want to help me out there, Luke?
You're doing good.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Anyways, yeah, that does it for WandaVision, and I think we'll probably talk about what we thought of the premiere of Falcon Winter Soldier in the same way we talked about the premiere of WandaVision, I imagine, in a couple weeks once that premieres. Oh, yeah. But dang, man.
Can't wait. It's going to be great.
Oh, boy. So are you ready to you're probably going to need to watch Justice League in several parts, I'd imagine. It's a 4-hour movie, or just watch it in the middle of the night. I don't know what you're going to do.
Is it the 18th? Is that when it is?
18th is when the Snyder Cut comes out.
I keep meaning to watch the old cut. I want to watch that before I watch the new cut.
Yeah,
Just want to have that fresh in my mind and compare, because I saw that movie and didn't like it, and so I haven't gone back to it. So I know I don't like it, but I want to pick out exactly why I don't like it and what I either like better about, or can't imagine being more disappointed in the new cut.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the time thing is going to be my biggest disappointment. There's no way I'm going to enjoy that.
I'll say
it's
this
too long
about the original Justice League cut. Regardless, that's not going to be an issue, the time, because it's actually it's a breezy movie, regardless of how flawed it is. It kind of goes by quick. It's pretty short. It's like just at 2 hours, and this one's twice the length coming up. But so imagine that. It's literally another movie on top of it. But
gosh, it's so long. It's half a work day.
Yeah, so we'll watch that. We'll review it. I mean, we're probably just gonna. I don't know how I'm planning on watching it. I might just watch it in one chunk, maybe on that Saturday or something. But
yeah.
Oh boy, that's this. Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting, no matter what happens.
Definitely, it's not this next week.
It'll be darn interesting.
The week after, and then the week after that, we'll probably talk. Even though they're happening in the same week, we'll probably spend a whole episode on Justice League, and then the following week talk a little bit about Falcon Winter Soldier. It's good to talk about movies again, though, like, or something where it's
I was going to say that. Doesn't it feel like it's been like more than a year now since we've been talking about like big movies, like big things? Like, I mean, WandaVision isn't big, but it's like the first Marvel thing we've finally gotten. Like, we've been waiting on, it's the movie. What's the one that's been Scarlett Johansson that's been delayed forever?
Black Widow, yeah.
Gosh.
Think about this,
on that
Luke.
movie forever.
Think about this. All right, so we're nipping at the heels of our 100th episode. We got maybe 10 more to go, and it's our 100th episode. Our second episode was the last Marvel movie to release in theaters when we reviewed Spider-Man Far From Home. It's been a long freaking time since we've seen a Marvel thing. Yeah.
Second episode.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
That's really nuts. And so it's good to talk about Marvel again. It's really good. And we got a lot coming. A lot coming.
That's crazy.
This is going to be a
way
big
to put
year.
it in perspective.
No kidding. It was.
And we've kept it pretty reasonably every week. So
yeah,
that's a lot of weeks.
A lot of weeks without Marvel. But this year is going to be chock full of it because we're going to have these shows. We're going to have Black Widow. And at the end of the year, we're going to have Spider-Man No Way Home. We're going to have a lot of Marvel to talk about this year. So we're only getting started.
I'm so interested to see there's so many movies that are like backed up. I mean, Fast and Furious is supposed to come out in like April. If you remember, it was delayed last April to this April. Is that going to come out? 007. Is that going to come out?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to come out, obviously, but in what form? At what time?
What time, exactly?
How many theaters? Are there any theaters?
Yeah, I mean, this thing is ending.
I think they will. I think all the theaters will open up, and I think they'll struggle for a while and either go out of business or, come back to their glory. I don't know, but
yeah,
I think something is going to happen in that space. There's too many movies that want to make that box office profit for it to not make an attempt, at least for at least a few months.
100%. The just a little bit here, not to start anything new, but this last week was the highest box office numbers since the beginning of the pandemic. Not huge numbers, but that's encouraging to see. The fact that they opened theaters in New York and there was Raya and the Last Dragon came out, and that and Tom and Jerry was enough to say this is the biggest opening. This is the biggest weekend at the box office since the pandemic started. That's encouraging. And it's just Regal isn't even open yet. And LA isn't open yet. And that's going to only a matter of time.
They haven't gotten our dollars yet.
Yeah, they haven't gotten our dollars yet. LA theaters are going to be opening next week. And Regal cinemas won't be far behind when that happens. So
yeah, and like those theaters may not have large capacity, but I can imagine, places like Texas and Wyoming and Florida and like Georgia, those kind of places, the governments are a little more lax and they could be making some decent money in those places.
Yeah.
I hope. I mean,
I hope to.
I hope they make money. I really want them open. I want to have that experience again. I want to see other people enjoying movies.
I'm thinking once the floodgates open and like we had like it's interesting, like looking at some of the reporting from like say the New York Times about the theaters opening up. It was relatively positive, saying, yeah, this is nice and they doing a good job and this is good. I'm glad to be back at the movies. And once the floodgates open, we're gonna have a lot more people encouraged to go back to the movies, and that's what's gonna be at the end. People going back to the movies, and the numbers going up like that.
Wouldn't it be insane if after all this talk of this is it, theaters are going away, it's only a matter of time, we've been waiting on this, and COVID was the dagger in the heart of movie theaters. If after all this there's a revolution in movie theaters and new companies open up and people are going to movie theaters like they'd never gone to movie theaters again, it's a revitalization of the movie theater industry. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen at all, but wouldn't that be nuts if that's actually what comes out of all this?
Whether that happens in the long term, I don't know, but
yeah.
Regardless, I think there's going to be a big boom this either in the summer or the fall where it's going to be a jubilation of just a lot of people just doing the things that they miss doing.
That would be crazy if it was complete opposite of what everybody's been saying.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
I mean,
with
maybe
that.
not complete, but maybe even there is some of an opposite reaction. There's so many people on podcasts I've listened to and friends. It's just been like, well, I never go to the theaters. I never had before, and I will probably won't again.
Oh, goodness.
But then you sit at home for 9 months, and you go, well, it'd be cool to go to the theater. It'd be cool to go to a mall. It'd be cool to go, to a public pool. I don't know. There's like so many things that you just can't do, and maybe you start missing it. Maybe the heart grows fonder, it's that kind of thing. It's like,
I think you might be right. Yeah. Exciting times.
A different reaction than maybe you think you were going to have.
Exactly. I think and hope for that result. But yeah.
As they say in Mr. Deeds, time heals all wounds.
Except these crazy eyes. Yes. All right. Well, that does it for this podcast. I actually need to head out and exciting times. I'll see you next week, guys. See you next week, Luke. I don't know who's the guys I'm talking to. I don't know.
All of them. All the guys. All the Avengers.
Oh yeah. I'll see ya.
See ya.